My mom's shocking revelation at Christmas dinner turned my life upside down. Discover my unexpected family legacy. The aroma of Carol's famous hymn filled the air, spiraling with the warmth of laughter and familiar stories shared. In Jamie Miller's small Tennessee home, that holiday spirit hugged her like a soft, comforting quilt. She watched her mother, Carol, set the table with the care of someone who cherished tradition, and for a fleeting moment, she felt like everything was perfect. Yet as she poured the eggnog, anticipation curled in her stomach. Something was lingering just beneath the surface. Just as they sat down, Carol's words shattered the sweetness of the moment. "There's something I need to tell you, Jamie. It's about your father." The weight of the statement hung in the air, electrifying the room, and Jamie's heartbeat surged. She had long imagined what it might mean to know more about a man who had left their lives as a mere whisper. And now, he was back, folded into the very fabric of their Christmas dinner. As new truths unfolded, Jamie's heart raced. An inheritance, a family business long shunned for its controversial past. It felt heavy, like a storm cloud looming overhead. Could she reach for this chance to rediscover herself and honor a father she'd barely known? Yet, the very thought made her stomach twist with uncertainty. What would it mean for Carol, who seemed rooted in fear at the mere mention of the past? It felt like standing between two worlds, each pulling her to different sides. Could she leave behind her life of caring for the hospital, the town, and especially her mother? Each patient she treated resonated in her heart, the dedication she'd shown gnawing at her conscience. How could she risk it all? Tension crackled like static in the air, threatening to short-circuit the bond they'd nurtured for so long. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the revelation hanging overhead, Jamie felt as though invisible chains began to bind her, each link a criticism or judgment from the community she knew all too well. The legacy pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat, igniting dreams of a powerful life she had left unexamined. But mingling with that hope was her mother's palpable distress, echoing doubts in Jamie's heart. What if reaching for this future meant tearing apart the only life she had ever wanted to honor? As Carol's fears unfolded, Jamie's spirit wrestled with anguish. Questions collided in her thoughts as she paced the dim kitchen. Should she unearth the family's truths even if it meant tarnishing the memory of a life she had built on loyalty and love? The more she thought, the deeper her anguish spiraled. Every idea felt like a stab to her gut, challenging not just her sense of duty, but the identity she had clung to. With the clock ticking toward New Year, the morning whispers of the town began to creep into her thoughts. What if others learned of her father's buried past? Would they see her as the daughter of same man they whispered about? Tension peaked, leaving her standing on a precipice, ready to confront Carol but unsure if it would liberate them or overshadow everything they had built together. The pressure rose, and so too did the questions. Would the confrontation shatter their fragile bond, or could this be the key to a future neither had anticipated? As the air thickened with unspoken words, Jamie braced herself. The time had come. A decision awaited that would either free her or wrest control of her life away completely. What path would she choose, and how would it change everything? Jamie stood frozen, her heart in a tight grip, as she prepared to confront the tangled web of familial truths. Weeks had passed since that explosive Christmas dinner, each day casting her deeper into a maelstrom of speculation and indecision. The dusty corners of her mind presented vivid images, the unturned pages of a family history she had barely known, the whispers of her community hovering over her like dark clouds. If she delved into her father's past, would she find strength, or would it poison the love she shared with her mother? In her quiet moments, Jamie found herself returning to the hospital, where the sterile scent of antiseptic and the hustle of nurses distracted her from the internal chaos. As she moved through the wards, patient stories urged her onward. Each smile she earned reminded her of the purpose she had carved out of her life. That purpose felt threatened yet again by the looming decision about her father's legacy. Could she forge a new path while remaining anchored in her beloved hospital? Was it selfish to consider that possibility? The questions gnawed at her as she sat at the small kitchen table, fingers drumming against the wood, seeking solace in the familiar rhythm. "Mom," she finally whispered, breaking the silence that had draped over them since the revelation. Carol looked up, her eyes clouded with a blend of worry and anticipation. Jamie sensed the decades of unvoiced fears pressing down on them. "What if we confronted it together?" The words tumbled out, her voice steadier than she felt within. Carol's breath hitched slightly. "You mean, face your father's legacy?" "Jamie, you don't know what it will mean." "No, but staying in the dark isn't an option either," Jamie rushed on, her determination hardening with each syllable. "I can't let his past decide my future. I want to find out who he was and what this inheritance truly means." She watched her mother's face, reading the fear swirling within those familiar features. "I understand," Carol replied slowly, though the trembling of her hands betrayed her calm facade. "But some truths can hurt more than you think." That response only fueled Jamie's resolve. She pushed back against her mother's fears, yearning to emerge from the shadows of uncertainty. There was a seed of bravery in her sense of duty to the hospital, a willingness to merge it with a legacy that had once felt like a betrayal. "Mom, what if unlocking this past could redefine not just his legacy but mine? What if I can face our town and the judgments, not as a victim, but as someone who embraces the full spectrum of my history?" Each word felt like an arrow aimed straight at the heart of her mother's concern. Tension crackled in the air, every second stretching into an eternity as silence wrapped itself around them. Jamie's pulse quickened as she awaited Carol's reply, the magnitude of her words heavy with possibility. Could this confrontation be the beginning of healing, not just for herself but for her mother as well? Gradually, relief washed over Jamie as she recognized a glimmer of understanding in her mother's eyes. Carol took a deep breath, the tension in her shoulders easing just slightly. "You're right, Jamie. Maybe it's time to understand him and us better." This acceptance sparked a new flame within her, a daring push against the fear that had held her captive. In that moment, she was no longer just a nurse or a daughter, she was a woman ready to uncover the layered richness of her identity. Yet a new anxiety settled in. What would she find as she dug deeper? As excitement and trepidation mingled inside her, Jamie grabbed her phone. The search for answers, it seemed, was only just beginning. As she typed in Miller family business, she couldn't shake off the nagging thought, would this journey forge her identity, or shatter the glass that kept her world intact? The moment of truth was approaching as she prepared to step into an unknown that could leave her changed forever. Jamie leaned closer to the screen, her heart racing with every click as search results filled the page. The name Miller family business echoed in her thoughts, triggering an onslaught of questions she barely knew how to articulate. Each link bore fragments of her family's past, but what lay beneath the surface? Would these revelations ultimately destabilize her understanding of herself, or sow the seeds of a much-needed transformation? The following morning, she arrived early at the hospital, her mind a whirlpool of anticipation and dread. Hazy reflections from the past danced in her thoughts, beckoning her to unravel the layers until the truth emerged. Her shifts had been a sanctuary, each patient reminding her of her purpose, and now, faced with this new burden, she didn't want to lose her grip. Yet what she uncovered about her family could change everything, the very foundation she had worked so diligently to build. Focused on a particularly stubborn ink stain on the hallway wall, she absent-mindedly rubbed at it with her fingers. A flash of guilt washed over her. How many patients had she brushed aside as she mentally prepared to confront her family's history? Jamie needed to recalibrate, to align her internal compass back to the crucial work before her. Between tasks, Jamie couldn't shake off the urge to confide in her closest colleague, Lisa. In the break room, as they stood side by side pouring coffee, Jamie finally spoke, a nerve trembling through her voice. "Do you think confronting family secrets is worth it?" Lisa's brow furrowed, her eyes wide with curiosity. "It depends. Some secrets can weigh you down. Others can empower you in ways you never expected." The waitress pulled Jamie from her thoughts as she contemplated the duality of that truth. What weighed down her family could very well empower her, but was she strong enough for what lay ahead? What if the answer to that question was locked somewhere in her father's past? With a deep breath, Jamie resolved to visit the local history center after her shift. This would be the starting point in excavation of her family's legacy. There was an urgency behind her decision. She dismissed the gnawing doubts that crept into her mind. This journey could either leave her hollow or unearth a newfound strength she had yet to comprehend. When her shift finally ended, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the parking lot as Jamie navigated her way to the history center. Each step echoed a rhythm of nervous energy through her veins. She pored over dated newspaper clippings and dusty records. Time drifted as she pieced together the threads of the past, each snippet revealing something new yet unsettling. Then, a name caught her attention, someone who had not just known her father but had also tied into the very business that had sent ripples through her family. An uneasy feeling bubbled within her, revealing itself as she exhaled a cocktail of anxiety and determination. Days turned into weeks, and the more Jamie unearthed, the more tangled the web became. With every entry, every slip of paper, she began to question her mother's cautions. Carol's fears had always been palpable, but now Jamie felt the tide turning within her. She mulled over the idea that perhaps the revelations weren't to be feared, but embraced as tools for her own evolution. As she prepared to confront both her family's past and her mother's apprehensions, a nagging feeling in her gut told her a bigger confrontation awaited. Would she be ready to face the potential backlash from her community? Could she withstand the waves of judgment that would surely follow? With a single determined nod, she clenched her fists and resolved to tackle her fears head-on. The mirror held a reflection of a woman she was becoming, one not defined by the shadows of her father but molded by the strength discovered within. The deeper Jamie delved, the more she pondered the risk of revisiting her past with Carol. What if her mother held on to secrets that could further alter their bond? A newfound urgency ignited within her as she took the next steps. As the History Center's light receded behind her, Jamie wondered just how far she was willing to go to uncover the truth. Would it illuminate her path or plunge her deeper into darkness? With the rush of revelations coursing through her, Jamie awoke early the next day, her mind racing with the fragments of her family's past she had uncovered. Memories of her childhood home flickered through her thoughts, echoes of laughter mixed with feelings of unease. What was it about the Miller family business that had forged chains of silence around her? Jamie dressed quickly, her thoughts flitting between work and the uncertainty she was about to embrace. The hospital felt different today, the sterile air heavy with potential. Mid-morning, while assisting a particularly anxious patient, Jamie caught herself pondering the repercussions of her digging. She wondered how the truth could weave itself into the tapestry of her life, turning familiar patterns into chaos. After several hours of demanding care, she found herself in the break room, the coffee pot bubbling softly in the background. Here she spotted Lisa, whose perceptive eyes seemed to gauge the turmoil swirling around Jamie. Lisa approached, concern etching her features. "You look stormy today. Want to talk?" she offered gently. Taking a breath, Jamie nodded. "I've been diving deeper into my family history, and it's frightening me. Good things don't always come easily." "What have you found?" Refilling her coffee cup, Jamie hesitated. "There's more to my dad's past, a lot more. But learning about it makes me question everything I've known." Lisa leaned against the counter, folding her arms. "What do you think will happen if you continue?" "There's the crux," Jamie thought. "What happens when I find out what was hidden?" She realized this wasn't just about her family, it was about her own identity. "I think confronting it could either shatter me or set me free." Lisa's brow rose, a small smile creeping in. "Then it sounds like you're on the right path." As the day progressed, Jamie's resolve strengthened. The thought of confronting her mother often tinged her with apprehension, yet she felt the urgency overwhelming the fear. This was more than understanding her past, it was about building a foundation for her future. She was ready to let go of the weight of expectation and embrace the complexity of her lineage. During lunch, she reached for her phone to call her mom. The trembling in her hand betrayed her nerves. What if Carol recoiled from the questions? What if she had more to share? Instead of dialing, Jamie pushed the phone away, thinking it best to hold off until she had a better grasp on her own thoughts. The shift dragged on, each task an exercise in focus as she tried to keep her mind anchored in the present, but a quiet storm brewed within her. Patients came and went, their struggles a reflection of her own emotional tumult. The idea of unveiling family secrets felt parallel to navigating the intricacies of patient care, sensitive, unpredictable, requiring utmost empathy. After her shift, Jamie navigated home through the familiar streets, trees lining the road as if shielding her from the realities she was about to face. She took a deep breath when she reached her front door, steeling herself for the prelude to an inevitable confrontation. That confrontation, she realized, would require vulnerability. Would she be prepared to embrace whatever lay ahead? With a determined snap, she opened the door and stepped inside. Carol was in the kitchen, her presence both a comfort and a source of anxiety. As Jamie approached, she gathered her courage, the moment before the plunge into deep waters ticking away. "Mom, can we talk?" The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. The look on Carol's face, a mixture of surprise and concern, hinted at the complexity of the conversation about to begin. Jamie swallowed hard, the stakes of this moment crystal clear. In that vulnerable stance, she stood ready, but what awaited their dialogue was unknown. One question lingered in her mind, echoing louder than the others: was she ready to discover the truths that were shadowed beneath the surface of their lives? The answer lay before her, waiting in the words that would soon be exchanged, but the realization that she was ready to risk everything for the truth flowed through her veins, igniting her spirit anew. The tension in the kitchen crackled like a simmering pot on the stove. Jamie's heart raced as she met her mother's gaze, the silence stretching thin between them. Every second felt charged with unsaid words and hidden histories. The very air seemed to bristle, hinting at the monumental shifts about to unfold between mother and daughter. "Of course, honey. What's on your mind?" Carol's voice trembled, betraying her uncertainty. Jamie hesitated, the weight of the conversation pressing down on her chest. "I've been looking into Dad's past and it's led me to some things I didn't expect. Some things that are about us, about our family." Carol's face tightened, a fleeting look of recognition flickering in her eyes. "You found something?" It was as if a door had cracked open, the potential for undiscovered truths beckoning her forward. "Yes, and I think we need to talk about it. Not just the events, but how they've shaped us." The memories surged within her, the stories told, the shadows looming in quiet moments over family dinners, the unending silence that seemed to shroud their lives. Jamie took a step closer, determined to peel back the layers. "What did they mean, Mom? Why have we never talked about it?" With a heavy sigh, Carol leaned against the counter, her defensiveness crumbling beneath the weight of Jamie's earnestness. "There are things that are hard to share, Jamie. Things I thought were best left in the past." "I need to know," Jamie urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "This isn't just about understanding Dad. It's about understanding who we are." Each word felt like a thread being woven into the fabric of her identity. Reluctantly, Carol seemed to gather herself, her expression softening. "Your father was different. His childhood was filled with secrets, pain, and a drive to escape his past. I thought keeping you sheltered would help you avoid the same burdens." "Sheltered from what?" The question burned on Jamie's lips, desperate for answers. Was it his family? Was it his choices? "I never wanted you to feel that kind of shame, or that kind of conflict," Carol admitted, her gaze dropping as if she could no longer face her daughter's probing stare. "I thought I was protecting you." Instead of shame, Jamie felt a rush of clarity. "But what about my truth? My identity?" The realization struck her she was confronting a legacy woven with silence and fear, but she refused to let that define her. "I should have trusted you more," Carol whispered, regret seeping from her words. "I imagined I could shield you from it all." With renewed determination, Jamie shook her head. "I don't want to be shielded anymore. I want to know everything, for my sake and for yours, too. We can face this together." As Jamie stood there, the emotional walls between them began to crack, allowing space for vulnerability and honesty. Carol looked at her daughter with eyes glistening, the realization that they could navigate this uncharted territory as a team igniting a flicker of hope. "Okay," Carol breathed. "But you have to promise me one thing, it won't change who you are. This is part of us, but it does not have to define you." Still grappling with her conflicted feelings, Jamie nodded. "I have to figure out who I am outside of this maze. The more I know about where I come from, the more I can decide who I want to be." The sentiment earned a gentle smile from Carol, the first sign of connection Jamie had felt since broaching the subject. Yet, beneath the relief simmered apprehension, stinging at the edges of what lay ahead. Was it truly possible for them to come to terms with the shadows of their past? The truth felt daunting, each revelation like a pebble dropped in a pond, the ripples expanding far beyond the initial splash. With each word shared, there was the promise of liberation, but it wouldn't come without cost. "Would you ever be ready to listen to my side of the story?" Carol asked, a hint of vulnerability now coloring her words. "Only if you promise to share everything," Jamie replied, a challenge veiling her fear. And in that moment, the unspoken pact was forged between them. Jamie knew the path to understanding would be fraught with complexities, but she felt fortified knowing she would not traverse it alone. A sense of purpose surged within her, intertwining together her professional life and the very personal quest for self-awareness. As she turned to leave the kitchen, a thought knocked against her consciousness: what if there were even darker truths lingering beyond their initial discussion? And as her heart raced, she felt a flicker of apprehension mixed with anticipation. Would she be able to handle what lay in the shadows? The next morning, Jamie awoke with a resolute mind, but underneath the calm resolve lay churning uncertainty. The conversation with her mother had shifted something within her, revealing the cracks in their shared history. Today was not just about uncovering family secrets, it was also about defining her boundaries and carving her own path forward. In the kitchen, the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, but it did little to settle her nerves. She poured herself a cup, staring out the window, lost in thought as the morning sun illuminated the frost on the ground. The world around her buzzed with its own routine, a stark contrast to the tempestuous excitement brewing inside her. The remnants of yesterday's discussion weighed heavily, the implications looming like a shadow over her daily life. The first task of the day was to prepare for her weekly project meeting at work, a routine that had previously felt mundane. But now, infused with newfound clarity, Jamie resolved to approach it differently. She realized that the shadows of her father's past had not only participated in shaping her identity but had also seeped into her professional life, influencing how she approached her career. Would the truth set her free from those unrecognized patterns? At the office, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation over the upcoming product launch. Jamie checked in with her team, commanding their attention with unexpected confidence. As they gathered around the conference table, she felt a sense of ownership, a surge of energy coursing through her veins. "Okay, let's discuss what's next," she began, her voice steady and assertive. Her colleagues looked at her with newfound respect, and for the first time, she felt that she was no longer just the background player. She directed the discussion, pushing ideas and exhorting feedback, tapping into her peers' strengths and insights. But as she dove deeper into the meeting, doubt sparkled at the corners of her mind. Would they still see her as the competent team member they were beginning to recognize if they knew the tumultuous details of her background, or were these experiences the very things that made her unique? "Jamie, what is your angle on this?" one colleague, Teresa, asked. The question thrown her way sharpened her focus. She could opt for the safe answer, the polished version that kept her personal life private. Yet, something in her flickered a yearning for authenticity. "Actually, I think we should consider how our product can address issues around identity and belonging. That resonates with a lot of people more than we realize," she said, feeling the words resonate within her own heart. There was silence, then a thoughtful nod from the group. They began bouncing ideas off one another, pushing boundaries, the creative energy in the room erupting with possibilities. Her desire to embrace her truth infused the team with inspiration. It was a revelation that rekindled a sense of purpose in her work, blending her personal journey with her professional aspirations. But as the meeting wound down and tasks were assigned, Jamie felt a creeping unease return. She thought about the deeper conversations with her mother still waiting on the horizon. What might she discover that could muddy the waters of this new clarity? She may have taken a bold step in her professional life, but was she equally ready to confront the insinuations of her past? After the meeting, Jamie retreated to her office, her thoughts colliding. She clicked through her emails, breathing through the tension in anticipation of another hard conversation with Carol. Just then, her phone buzzed, a text from her mother coming through. The words were simple but heavy. "Can we talk tonight? I have something important to share." The weight of those words sank deeply into her chest. What was her mother preparing to unveil? Suddenly, Jamie felt the tension rise again, an intensity deeper than before. The path to understanding was riddled with shadows, and she feared what light might reveal. As the day drew to a close and she packed up her things, Jamie found herself at a crossroads. In the merging of her two worlds, personal and professional, would she emerge stronger or more fractured? Her pulse quickened at the thought of what lay ahead. What was it that her mother was penned up with? She could sense the truth about to intensify, and it tugged at her with an urgency that refused to be ignored. Tonight would change everything, she thought. She could no longer avoid the complexities of her family history or the implications for her future. Would she find liberation in uncovering her truth, or would it leave her grappling with new dilemmas she had yet to fathom? The grip of anticipation tightened within her as she prepared to face whatever revelations awaited, ready to traverse deeper into the shadows of her past. As Jamie settled into the evening air, the anticipation wrapped around her like a heavy blanket, stifling yet oddly comforting. The thought of confronting the unspoken fabric of her family's history crackled in her mind, more electrifying than the impending winter chill. Each tick of the clock echoed her thudding heart. She poured herself another cup of tea, fingers trembling slightly as she took the first sip, its warmth soothing yet not enough to quell the growing tempest inside. The sun had vanished, giving way to an expanse of ink-black sky speckled with stars, but Jamie's thoughts remained illuminated by the flickering shadows of doubt and uncertainty. What truths would her mother unveil? And could these revelations potentially reshape the very foundation of her identity? Every moment of waiting felt both agonizing and necessary. She recalled her earlier discussions with her colleagues, how invigorating it was to allow her own experiences to shape her contributions. Would that same courage stand firm now when faced with the raw materials of her relationship with Carol? She took a deep breath, determined to channel the strength she had discovered in the boardroom. With minutes to spare, Jamie made her way to the living room, glancing at herself in the hallway mirror. A wave of self-reflection washed over her. Who was she in this moment? The confident woman from work or the uncertain daughter staring back at her? The duality felt almost intoxicating, each side trying to assert dominance. When Carol finally arrived, the air shifted noticeably. There was a hesitance in her mother's movements, a shadow of the quite familiar anxiety that always seemed to follow their conflicts. They exchanged awkward pleasantries, each carefully measuring their words as the weight of unsaid truths hung heavily between them. "Mom, I got your text. You said you had something important to discuss," Jamie prompted, her voice steady despite the swarm of butterflies in her stomach. The time for small talk had expired, the urgency for truth eclipsed any trivial exchanges. Carol sighed, a deep exhale that seemed to carry a lifetime of regret. "Yes, I do," she began, her gaze fixating on the warping wood grain of the coffee table between them. "It's about your father and about things I've never shared with you." As she spoke, Jamie felt herself diving into a whirlpool of emotions, each sentence from her mother tugging at threads of her past, unraveling years of uncertainty. Carol recounted secrets hidden beneath layers of circumstance, revealing the extent of her father's struggles, fears that had shaped not only his life but theirs as a family. Each revelation drew Jamie further from the stable image she had carved for herself and plunged her deeper into the chaotic reality of vulnerability. "This may explain why your father was the way he was," her mother continued, her tone breaking slightly before she steadied herself. "I have kept so much from you, thinking it was for your protection, but it isn't how I should have approached you. Hearing these words ignited a whirlwind of frustration and empathy within Jamie. She began to see how the constraints her mother had placed on their relationship were the same ones she had fought against in her professional life. The urge to understand this meticulously guarded narrative surged within her. "What does this mean for us? For me?" she asked, almost pleading in desperation for clarity. "I need you to know the truth so you can make informed choices about your life. I've held back trying to shield you, but perhaps." Carol's voice trembled, perhaps it was all a way to avoid facing my own fears. An insight flooded Jamie's mind like the rising tide. Understanding now became more than an act of recuperating a lost connection, it was a stepping stone toward personal growth and healing both for her mother and herself. She was compelled now to navigate this newfound territory with curiosity rather than fear. As the gravity of the moment enveloped them, Jamie realized that raw honesty carried its own kind of liberating weight. Yet, another profound question hung in the air: how would these revelations reshape her future? Just as she began to gather her thoughts, the doorbell rang, slicing through the tension like a knife. Who could it be at this hour? The sudden interruption sent a shiver of uncertainty down her spine. Did her mother's revelations have more layers yet to be uncovered? Jamie shifted uneasily, her stomach nodding with the realization that clarity often invites further complexity. The moment of truth had arrived, and with it, the potential for a deeper journey had just begun. Jamie's breath hitched as she exchanged a glance with her mother, the air thick with unfinished conversations. The doorbell rang again, a stark inquiry echoing in the stillness. The weight of the moment hung as precariously as the thin veil of uncertainty they were both skirting. "Should I get it?" Jamie asked, her voice low, almost swallowed by the anticipation swirling around her. Carol merely nodded, her gaze still averted, lost in her own world of regret. With each step toward the door, Jamie felt her heart race. As she pulled it open, she was met by a familiar face, her old friend Sophie, standing on the porch wearing an expression of concerned familiarity. Dressed casually in a knitted sweater, she had always been a bright spot in Jamie's life, someone who radiated warmth and comfort even in the trickiest moments. "Hey, is everything okay?" Sophie asked, her eyes darting to Jamie's disheveled hair and the quiet urgency cloaking the atmosphere. "Yeah, come in," Jamie gestured, a subtle smile breaking through her stress. "We were just talking." Sophie stepped inside, sensing the tension almost immediately. "I didn't mean to interrupt," she said softly. "Nonsense," Jamie reassured her, wishing for relief in the shared warmth of friendship. "It's just family stuff." As the three settled into the living room, Jamie's mind oscillated between this surge of support and the weighty truths still hanging in the air with her mother. She needed to absorb what Carol had begun to reveal and yet now felt a surge of impulsive determination to confront what was ahead, not just for herself, but for her relationship with her mother. Sophie took a seat near Carol, her presence an unspoken encouragement. "You look like you could use a good chat," she offered, turning to Jamie expectantly. "I do," Jamie replied, her voice gaining strength as she considered sharing the revelations that had cracked her foundation. "It's just my mom's been telling me about my dad and some things I never knew, things that might change everything for us." Carol glanced at her daughter with a mix of surprise and gratitude, as if she wasn't prepared for Jamie to open this door. Sophie's expression turned serious as she processed Jamie's words. "Sometimes learning those hard truths is the first step toward growth," she said, her tone compassionate. "Exactly," Jamie mused, realizing the weight behind the words. She was no longer just navigating the unknown solely for herself, but understanding that this journey was a shared exploration of healing for all involved. The conversation began to flow, and with each exchange, Jamie found herself slowly dissecting years of silence and misconceptions, glimpses of understanding emerging amidst the cracks of uncertainty. "You know, maybe what you discover could redefine everything you thought you knew," Sophie suggested, her voice steadying Jamie. "What if it turns out more liberating than imprisoning?" With each word, Jamie felt the shackles of her past loosening. Could these newfound truths pave the way for her to forge deeper connections and authentic relationships, both at home and in her professional life? The parallels between her personal revelations and her career began to crystallize, a bridging point of empowerment blooming within her. "So what do we do now?" Jamie asked, her voice threaded with determination. "If I know these things, it feels like I have a choice in how I move forward." "Then this is your chance to shape that choice," Carol interjected, her eyes finally meeting Jamie's with a fervor that had long been absent. "It's about embracing the transparency and deciding how you want our story to continue." In that moment, Jamie felt the full weight of their history converge to strengthen her resolve. She had been wrestling with a truth buried between duty and desire. Angela's presence sparked her to recognize that perhaps, nestled among the chaos of family dynamics, lay hidden potential, a chance not only to repair her relationship with her mother, but also to spark growth within herself. Just as newfound clarity began to settle in, Jamie's phone buzzed ominously on the table, jarring them back to reality. The name flashing on the screen cracked her concentration, and her breath caught in her throat once more. Would facing this new challenge propel her journey even further into the unknown? Curiosity ignited within her, and the urgency for resolution clashed with the fervor of discovery. What awaited her on the other end of the line could alter everything she had just begun to understand. Jamie's pulse quickened as she hesitated, staring at the screen. The name illuminated in bright blue felt like a beacon of confusion. Was this the moment that would propel her forward or sink her further into uncertainty? With a shaky breath, she swiped to answer, the familiar voice of her coworker, Ben, echoing through the receiver. "Hey Jamie, do you have a minute?" "Yeah, of course," she replied, a knot forming in her stomach. "What's up?" "Listen, I know you've been working on that project for the client proposal, and I've come across some changes." His tone was serious, and Jamie felt a chill creep over her. "We need to pivot our approach. The client's expectations have shifted. It's urgent." The implications were heavy. Jamie swallowed hard, her recent revelations intertwining with the chaos now unfolding in her professional life. "What changes are we talking about?" she asked, eager to comprehend the new landscape. "They're pushing for something more innovative. They want fresh ideas, and frankly, it's going to take more than what we originally planned." "I trust your vision, Jamie. We have to regroup and brainstorm new directions." His words ignited an amalgam of emotions. Excitement flickered within the uncertainty, yet a fierce anxiety gripped her. Just as she was discovering new truths about her personal life, her professional landscape was shaking beneath her, demanding she rise to a challenge that could define her career. "Okay," she said, her resolve surfacing. "Let us set a time to meet. I can start thinking about some new strategies tonight." Ben chuckled, the lightness in his tone a contrast to her inner turmoil. "Great. I knew I could count on you." As Jamie ended the call, she felt the weight of dual expectations press down on her, her mother awaiting their ongoing conversation and the looming deadline for a presentation that could make or break her standing at work. The discrepancies felt almost insurmountable. "Are you okay?" Sophie's comforting presence broke through her thoughts. "Just busy," Jamie replied, seeking stability amid the chaos. Yet, as she glanced at her mother, she couldn't ignore the parallels. She was being challenged to confront the unknown in both her family and her career. "Are you sure you want to push through this meeting tonight?" Carol asked, concern lacing her tone. "You've been through a lot today." Jamie pinched the bridge of her nose, weighing her responsibilities. "But I finally have a chance to showcase what I can do, to innovate, to lead. I can't back down now." "Then don't," Sophie encouraged. "Use this moment, Jamie. Share what you're learning about yourself today with your colleagues. Let the personal drive your professional growth." The words ignited a spark of determination within Jamie. She envisioned presenting her bold ideas, rooted in her newfound understanding of authenticity, not just about her family history but about her own aspirations. "Okay," Jamie smiled, feeling a flicker of excitement stir within her. "I can do this." As the conversation flowed back toward the room filled with unresolved feelings, Jamie understood that this was her turning point. She was no longer merely a passenger in her life, she was stepping into the driver's seat, armed with clarity and purpose. That sense of empowerment would be her guiding principle during the upcoming meeting. But just as she took a deep breath, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Ben, reading, "We need to nail this down. Can we meet earlier?" Jamie's heart raced again, not with doubt, but with the thrill of potential. She knew she had a choice to make. Could this be the moment that truly defined her, both personally and professionally? Or would the weight of her family's secrets disrupt her momentum? With her mind swirling with possibilities, she glanced at her mom, feeling that shared understanding pulse through the room again. Determined to embrace whatever lay ahead, she replied to Ben, her fingers dancing over the screen. This was no longer just about survival, it was about seizing the moment. "Let's meet at the coffee shop in an hour," she typed, each word solidifying her intent. As she set her phone down, Jamie realized that the urge to confront both her mother and her work could lead to a radical shift. How would she integrate her personal truths into this professional landscape? The answer felt tantalizingly close, yet as unexpected hurdles rose to the surface, the dark dance between confidence and fear lurked nearby. Would she successfully navigate this crossroads, or would something unforeseen derail her mission? The coffee shop buzzed with life, but Jamie felt as if the world had slowed to a standstill. She sat at a small table, fingers curled around a steaming cup, heart racing with the prospect of what lay ahead. The conversation with her mother had deepened her understanding of their family dynamic, while the call from Ben was the catalyst she needed to assert her presence in her workplace. As she waited for Ben to arrive, the aroma of roasted beans filled the air, a comforting reminder of the life pulsing around her. Yet, her thoughts were consumed by the intersection of her two worlds. Could the truths she had begun to uncover about her father's legacy resonate not only in her family relationships but also spark innovation in her professional life? Ben strode through the door, an enthusiastic smile on his face as he spotted her across the room. "Hey, sorry I'm late. I grabbed us some muffins," he said, gesturing with a brown paper bag. "Just in time," Jamie replied, appreciative of his easy demeanor. As he settled across from her, she recognized the comfort his presence brought, a relief from the emotional weight she had been carrying since uncovering her family's past. "I've been thinking about how to fly with this project," Jamie began, feeling the tension settle within her. "We need to challenge the status quo, right? I feel like my journey to understand my father's legacy could actually inform how we approach our work. It's all about authenticity." Ben leaned forward, eyebrows raised. "That's an interesting perspective. How do you envision that?" "Maybe we focus on telling stories, real customer experiences that echo where we came from. We can integrate that emotional appeal into our proposals." As she spoke, her confidence soared, the words flowing easily as if she were reclaiming pieces of herself that had long been hidden. Ben nodded, excitement shimmering in his eyes. "That could set us apart. Customers don't just want a product, they want to feel connected. What else do you have in mind?" The discussion unfolded, ideas bouncing between them as the atmosphere shifted from apprehension to inspiration. Jamie conceived innovative approaches, inspired by her personal re-evaluation of identity. Her newfound commitment to confronting her history fueled her drive for that same honesty in her work. However, as they wrapped up, Jamie couldn't shake off the lingering uncertainties. Would her deeper understanding of her father's past translate into her vision for the future? What if the more she unearthed from her family story, the more it affected her professional relationships? Leaving the coffee shop, Jamie felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. She had come up with a resonant direction for her project and shared it confidently. Yet, her personal revelations remained a distinct layer of complexity. What awaited her back at home, and how would she continue that conversation with Carol? Upon arriving, she found Carol sitting at the kitchen table, a fresh cup of tea steaming next to her. The air hummed with unspoken words, their prior discussions hovering like a weight over them. "Did you have a good meeting?" Carol asked, attempting to ease the tension. "Yes, it went well," Jamie replied, taking a moment before adding, "I've been thinking a lot. The very essence of authenticity and connection applies to both what I uncovered today and our family history." Her mother's expression softened, curiosity peeking beneath the surface. "What do you mean?" I realized that our family's secrets can be sources of strength rather than shame. Knowing the truth is what will empower me, give me direction both personally and professionally. Jamie braced herself for the inevitable follow-up. I want to keep this conversation open, Mom. To go deeper together. Female connection sparked softly in Carol's eyes, but the apprehension still lingered. You know your father's past had immense repercussions, Jamie. I need to know, though, she interjected, resolve hardening within her. I can't let the secrets cloud my choices either in our family or in my career. I have to confront this. The choice is yours, Carol replied cautiously, yet there was a shimmer of acceptance behind her hesitation. But I'll be here with you. Together we can navigate this. Jamie felt a wave of relief wash over her. They were ready to embrace the uncertainties together, unraveling the intricacies of their family's legacy with courage, allowing everything they had hidden to surface. As realizations began to align into a coherent narrative, Jamie sensed a profound transformation unfolding. She no longer viewed herself as a product of her past, she was becoming someone shaped by choice and purpose. This new awakening fueled her, not just in the realm of family, but also in her burgeoning career. In the coming weeks, Jamie stepped into her space with renewed confidence, sharing her ideas and her personal journey more openly with her colleagues. Embracing the authenticity they had cultivated together became a guiding principle in her workplace. Moreover, her relationship with Carol deepened as they faced their revelations together, establishing a shared commitment to vulnerability and support. The knots of tension that once divided them unraveled, replaced with an understanding that cherished both their similarities and differences. As Jamie moved forward, embracing both her own personal story and her professional aspirations, she realized profound growth existed at the intersection of her history and the future she chose to shape. At last, she had attained a solid confidence in her identity, an established position both as a leader and as a daughter. Her journey had transformed her world, and with each passing day, Jamie proved that while the past shaped her, it would no longer define her. Instead, she intended to honor it uniquely by living a life crafted from the truths she uncovered, inspired by the lessons learned along the way. This was her moment, what she had sought all along, fulfillment through authentic connection, acceptance, and unwavering resilience. Now is the time to take similar steps in your own journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can change your perspective. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make these transformative narratives accessible to everyone. Comment with your reactions and theories about Jamie's journey. What insights can you gather for your own life's path? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the power of personal overcoming stories.